Good evening. Tonight, we turn our attention to a pivotal moment in North American trade relations, one that sent shockwaves through both the United States and Canada. The Trump administration's sweeping tariffs on Canadian goods marked a dramatic shift in the long-standing partnership between these two nations. For decades, the U.S. and Canada enjoyed one of the world's most open borders, with goods, services, and people flowing freely. But that changed almost overnight. A 10% levy was imposed on Canadian energy exports, a sector vital not just to Canada's economy, but also to American consumers and industries. Meanwhile, a 25% tariff targeted a wide array of other Canadian products, from steel and aluminum to everyday goods found in homes and businesses across both countries. The message from Washington was unmistakable. America was prepared to rewrite the rules of trade, even if it meant challenging its closest neighbor and ally. The administration argued these tariffs would revitalize U.S. industry, protect American jobs, and encourage consumers to buy domestic products by making foreign imports more expensive. Supporters saw it as a bold move to restore American manufacturing strength. But the impact went far beyond economics. The tariffs disrupted decades of seamless trade, introducing new barriers and uncertainty where there had once been trust and cooperation. Energy, which had long symbolized partnership and mutual benefit, was suddenly transformed into a bargaining chip in a high-stakes negotiation. Businesses on both sides of the border scrambled to adapt. From large manufacturers to small family-owned shops, many faced rising costs, supply chain disruptions, and a growing sense of uncertainty about the future. The tariffs weren't just abstract policy decisions, they delivered a real-world shock to industries ranging from manufacturing to energy, leaving some operations stalled and others struggling to survive. This opening move set the stage for a tense, high-stakes standoff between two longtime allies, with the future of cross-border trade and the livelihoods of millions hanging in the balance. To understand these tariffs, we must look at the Trump administration's America First doctrine. This approach was more than just a slogan, it was a fundamental shift in how the U.S. viewed its role in the global economy. Trump's message resonated with many Americans who felt left behind by globalization and rapid changes in industry. Trump believed the U.S. had been exploited in trade deals, costing American jobs and manufacturing. He often pointed to shuttered factories and struggling towns as evidence that previous trade agreements had failed American workers. Tariffs were his tool to correct what he saw as unfair imbalances, especially with Canada. He argued that by imposing tariffs, the U.S. could pressure trading partners to offer better terms and restore lost industries. He cited a disputed trade deficit, arguing America bought far more from Canada than vice versa. This claim was hotly debated by economists, but it became a central talking point in his push for new trade policies. The administration claimed tariffs would rebalance trade, protect workers, and even tame inflation by bringing production home. Supporters believed this would spark a manufacturing revival and strengthen the American middle class. This approach defied conventional wisdom, which warns tariffs raise consumer prices. Critics argued that tariffs would ultimately hurt American consumers and businesses by making goods more expensive. But for Trump, tariffs were leverage, a way to force partners like Canada to the negotiating table. He saw them as a bargaining chip, not just an economic tool, to extract better deals for the U.S. The goal: rewrite deals like NAFTA in America's favor. Trump wanted to replace or renegotiate agreements he felt were outdated or unfair, aiming to secure stronger protections for American industries. The tariffs weren't meant to last forever, but to disrupt the status quo and extract concessions. They were designed as a temporary shock to the system, intended to force rapid change and bring reluctant partners to the table. It was a bold, high-pressure strategy to reshape global trade. Trump's approach marked a dramatic departure from decades of U.S. trade policy, signaling a willingness to challenge allies and rivals alike. The world was watching to see if it would work, as markets, governments, and everyday people braced for the impact of this new era in American trade policy. The 10% tariff on Canadian energy was striking because the U.S. relies heavily on Canadian oil. In 2024, over 60% of America's imported crude came from Canada, more than 1.4 million barrels daily. U.S. refineries, especially in the Midwest, are built specifically for heavy Canadian crude. Switching to other oil types would require costly, time-consuming retrofits and disrupt fuel supplies. The system is designed for Canadian oil, Changing that isn't simple. Ironically, the tariff raised costs for American refineries, putting them at a disadvantage. The move exposed the deep technical interdependence of the two economies. Policy decisions in Washington had immediate costly consequences for U.S. industry. The energy tariff created a paradox, protecting American interests by hurting American businesses. Canada responded swiftly and firmly to the tariffs, refusing to back down in the face of economic pressure from its largest trading partner. The government's reaction was not just about economics, it was about national pride and defending the rules-based order that had defined North American trade for decades. Ottawa made it clear, countermeasures were on the table, and the message was unmistakable: Canada would not be bullied. Officials spoke with a rare unity, emphasizing that the country would stand up for its workers, industries, and values. Ontario Premier Doug Ford captured the national mood, declaring, "I don't start a tariff war, but we're going to win this tariff war." His words echoed across the country, rallying Canadians from coast to coast and reinforcing a sense of resolve. Canada began preparing targeted retaliatory tariffs, carefully selecting American goods that would have the greatest political and economic impact. The goal was to send a clear signal that any action against Canada would have real consequences. The strategy was calculated: create pressure on American lawmakers by targeting products from their districts, especially those in swing states or regions vital to the U.S. economy. This approach aimed to turn domestic political pressure back onto Washington. Canada, though smaller in size and population, showed it had leverage and wouldn't be pushed around. The country's leaders emphasized unity and resilience, determined to protect Canadian jobs and industries. The government argued that U.S. tariffs violated the spirit, and perhaps the letter, of long-standing trade agreements like NAFTA and its successor, USMCA. Canada insisted that fair trade was a cornerstone of the relationship. By preparing a strong response, Canada asserted its sovereignty and its right to fair, rules-based trade. The government's actions reassured Canadians that their interests would be defended on the world stage. The talk of countermeasures was more than rhetoric. It was a calculated move in a diplomatic chess match, where every decision could tip the balance of power and shape the future of North American trade. Both sides braced for escalation, knowing the economic pain would be shared. Markets reacted with uncertainty, and businesses on both sides of the border began to prepare for possible disruptions. The standoff was set, each side calculating its next move in a high-stakes confrontation, with livelihoods and political futures hanging in the balance. The world watched as two close allies edged closer to a trade war, uncertain of what the next chapter in this unfolding drama would bring. Economists quickly warned the tariffs could backfire, hurting American consumers most. Tariffs act as a tax on imports, and those costs are usually passed to consumers through higher prices. The Midwest, reliant on Canadian oil, faced the brunt. Refineries would pay more, and so would drivers and businesses. The ripple effect: higher fuel costs, pricier goods, and rising transportation expenses. The 25% tariff on other Canadian goods threatened to raise costs on everything from cars to groceries. Experts feared this would fuel inflation, undermining the prosperity tariffs were meant to protect. The consensus: a trade war with Canada risked making life more expensive for Americans. The path to economic strength, analysts argued, didn't run through tariffs on America's closest trading partner. As tensions rose, analysts noted Canada's powerful leverage control over its oil exports. Even the threat of reducing oil flow to the U.S. rattled markets and exposed a critical American vulnerability. The integrated North American energy market, once a strength, now revealed a strategic weakness. If Canada cut supply, Midwest refineries would face shutdowns, causing fuel shortages and price spikes. The economic shock would ripple nationwide, driving up transportation costs and inflation. Canada's oil spigot gave it a strong negotiating hand. The relationship was one of mutual dependence, not one-sided reliance. Canada could inflict real economic pain if pushed too far. This reality forced the U.S. to reconsider its strategy. In this dispute, Canada was far from powerless. The White House insisted America didn't need Canadian oil, touting energy independence. Trump claimed vast U.S. reserves meant the country could act without fear of losing Canadian supply. But the reality was more complex. U.S. refineries need heavy Canadian crude, not just any oil. Swapping in domestic shale oil isn't a simple fix. engineering and logistics make it nearly impossible. The administration's rhetoric clashed with the technical and economic facts on the ground. Trump's claims of a massive trade deficit with Canada, though disputed, fueled the push for tariffs. The debate over energy independence became central to the conflict. Industry experts knew the U.S. couldn't easily walk away from Canadian oil. The political vision of self-sufficiency collided with the reality of deep cross-border integration. Despite the heat dispute, both nations emphasized their enduring friendship. Ontario's Doug Ford reminded everyone, Canadians love Americans. Decades of cooperation and millions of jobs depend on U.S. Canada trade. Behind the scenes, diplomats worked to de-escalate, seeking a solution that preserved the partnership. The challenge: resolve the immediate conflict without lasting damage. Statements of goodwill reassured citizens and markets that the alliance would endure. The episode highlighted both the strength and fragility of the relationship. The oil tariff dispute revealed how deeply intertwined the two economies are. Even amid tension, both sides recognized the need for cooperation. The real test managing disputes so the friendship survives for generations.